Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Welcome to The Open Door. Jim Hannick here with co-host Matthew Bartko. And our special guest today is Monica Sohler, I should say, from the National Committee of the American Solidarity Party. We're going to begin, as always, with a prayer. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful, and kindle in them the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and they shall be created, and you will renew the face of the earth. Let us pray. Lord, by the light of the Holy Spirit, you have taught the hearts of your faithful in the same Spirit. Help us to relish what is right, and always rejoice in your consolation. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Gentle listeners and friends, we last week spoke about local politics from the perspective of the American Solidarity Party. And this week, we're going to continue. We're very happy to have Monica with us because, among other things, she's just put together a great informational sheet about not only how to get involved in local politics, but how to do it big time, that is, by running as a candidate. And that's what we in the American Solidarity Party are especially interested in. People are going to step forward and run as candidates. So I'm going to begin with a question, and I'm sure that question will lead to other questions. In fact, I have a handful of them in mind, but let's begin at the beginning. So, Monica, could you tell us a bit about your own experience running as an American Solidarity Party candidate?
I'll rewind a little bit. 10, 11 years before I joined the Solidarity Party, I was asked by some people in my town to run for my town council, and that was primarily due to some of us having an opposition to a redevelopment going on in town. That was a learning experience, running at a very local level, and I did lose that race by about 3 or 4 votes. It was very close. I learned an awful lot, and our little group ran another candidate the next year, and that candidate won. So I more or less beat a path, and we sort of learned how to do it from someone running. Now, we fast forward to the 2016 election when I found the American Solidarity Party because Mike Maturin and Juan Munoz had the courage to step forward and run for president and vice president and got the word out about the party. I was asked by the party, again, would I be able to run in New Jersey? New Jersey was one of the only states that had a 2017 election. There was also one in Virginia, and we also, Mitzi Helmer put herself out to run down there. She ran into some considerable obstacles running. I did manage to get on the ballot in New Jersey. They asked me to run at the state level, so I ran for state assembly, and there was a lot of paperwork involved, a lot of learning involved. I had a very good team under me, and the main purpose of that run was to get the word out about the American Solidarity Party. My experience running as an ASP candidate, first of all, I think running, it can seem daunting. But if you have something you truly believe in, and the platform of the Solidarity Party is something I do truly believe in, it can kind of give you the courage to run. You should always be willing to do the job you're running for, but I think you also look at your run realistically. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But even in losing, you're beating a path for the next person, and you're learning how to do it. I put the word out about the party. I think one of the best things for me as I was running was how many people of different political views rallied around me. because they knew me. And politics really is always personal. If you're going to succeed, there's a lot of you can use the internet, you can do all that, but talking to people one-on-one, meeting people one-on-one, being honest with them, you get a good response. So I had people that had supported Bernie Sanders, I had people that supported Donald Trump, I had people that supported just about everybody else that ran that were supporting me. Some of them didn't agree with all of the positions of the Solidarity Party, but they agreed with a lot of them. And I found in talking to people that our party slogan of common good, common ground, common sense to be really guiding for me, because there was an awful lot of common ground between people that otherwise would be battling, and we really based a lot on that.
That sounds like a lesson for all of us. I've just finished working with a fellow here in Inglewood named Joseph Soto, and he didn't win the contest. The two folks who won, one could only be the winner, but the two folks who finished ahead of him, between the two of them, they had $1 million in campaign contributions.
Yeah.
So that made it very, very difficult. However, I think Joseph made himself well known. He did come in third place, and he is truly personable. He's a humble guy. He went around talking to people. After he came over to our house for a while and did a little planning and so forth, his campaign manager was on the show last week. He and his wife just set up down the street and walked from house to house to house to house to house, introducing themselves. So that part of what you said really connects with my experience, my very recent experience.
Now, I think one thing that's important, when I was first asked, I said if I ran for my local town council again, I had a very good chance of winning. I had come very close the last time. People now knew my name. I had learned a lot. And the party felt they would really prefer to have a state candidate. And I told them my chances were much slimmer doing that, but I was certainly willing to put myself out there. Now, for people interested in running for the Solidarity Party, I think it is very valuable to have people running for larger offices. Certainly, I would never have known about the party if it hadn't been for Mike and Juan running for president and vice president. And I don't think either one of them expected to win it, but they gave me an option at a time I didn't feel I had an option, and I appreciated that. However, when you run in your town or for a local office where you can actually go door to door and speak to people, you have a very strong chance of winning, even if you are a small third-party candidate. So I encourage people, especially if they're a little bit intimidated about running for office, you know your own town. You know more than you think. You go to your town council meetings. You go to your school board meetings. And you start to realize that, hey, this is something that I am capable of doing. I have a voice. I can represent people. I can represent the ideals of the Solidarity Party on the very local level. And that's a massive step to take. Certainly there are people who are capable and willing to run for a higher office, but I wouldn't discount those local offices. Your neighbors know you, and your neighbors will be the one that will be voting for you. And you share our very valuable platform, I think, in a country that's rather starved for it.
Matthew, do you have any questions at this point for Monica, maybe specifically on what she's just been telling us?
Monica, what would you say? A lot of people have a lot of hang-ups. That they're spending a lot of time with their children. They don't feel like they can make the time out of work or their church obligations. When someone's looking at something like town council, the first office you ran for, how many hours a week does that usually take up? I mean, how much of the obligation are they really looking at to run for a small local office?
I think there's a time commitment, and I think it's something people should look at and get information about. Certainly, I am always available to speak to. I've been down this path. We have other people that have run for office that would be willing to speak to someone if they are considering it and curious about it. And every locality is different. In my own town, It's a small town, and the houses are fairly close together, and there is no better way to run than to knock on every door in town and to go to local events. You go to the Christmas parade, you go to, any events in town that are happening. You can set up a table and talk to people one-on-one. That will take time. Certainly it's something you can do. Myself and the other candidate that won and did win the following year in our town worked and still went after work, putting in an hour or two in the evening to knock on doors and talk to people. It does take time. And I would say to people, prayerfully consider your obligations. Someone who's a parent of small children, this might not be the time for them to run because their first obligations are to their family. Anyone considering running who is married, talk to your spouse. Make sure that you are working as a team, not necessarily that your spouse is going to work on your campaign. My husband and I have slightly different politics. He still helps my campaign anyway. But I certainly wouldn't have put that obligation on him to do it. But I wanted to make sure that this was not something that would cause stress in the family. And I do think people need to take that seriously. By the same token, once you find out what it involves, you might say, hey, this is something I can do. Right now, my children are grown. My baby is about to turn 21. He's away at college. I have more free time than I did in the past, and that's why when they asked if I could run for state, I said yes. I thought about it and said I don't think I have a conflict doing it right now. As far as town council, how much time it takes, the best people to talk to are the people serving on it, and that's going to vary from town to town. In my own town, there's monthly meetings, sometimes meetings twice a month, that may take 2 to 3 hours in the evening, and then people have obligations. Usually a council member is assigned a particular job. They might be connected with the Public Works as a liaison with them, as a liaison with planning or zoning. So there are other meetings to go to, and there is a certain amount of a time commitment. However, pretty much everybody on a small town council, township board, they all have full-time jobs and families, so it is not something that is impossible to do.
Monica.
Thank you. And that's a concern for a lot of people.
Yeah, and you really have to consider, the other thing to think about is if you are able to run or you're simply considering running, again, talk to other people, talk to me. My email, solidaritysohler, SOHLER, @gmail.com. You can reach me there. I'm happy to talk to you. Contact me by email. We can talk in person if you like as well. But not everyone is able to make the commitment to run for a variety of reasons, but they may be able to help a candidate who is running. Maybe they can give an hour over the course of a week, either to knock on doors, maybe to help set up or man a website, even to share posts on Facebook. Some people are good with a camera to shoot a YouTube video for the candidate. There's many ways people can help. Candidates who are running need a support team. And even if you can give just an hour a week, that can be tremendously helpful to a candidate. So that's another option for people who want to help see Solidarity Party candidates win elections.
Monica, Jim here again. A couple questions. First, just how small is your small town?
Boy, I should know. I would say it's between 3,000 and 4,000 people.
All right.
So it's not itty-bitty. It's not, 412 people. That might be easier or it might be harder depending on how people in town feel about each other. But a really tiny town may be an easier election, but mine, it's certainly possible to knock on all those doors over the course of an entire election period in a town my size.
That's
now,
the
when
size
I ran
of a town I'd like to live in. But here in Englewood, there are 110,000 people, but that's deceptive because Englewood is snuggled into, as are a dozen other cities, snuggled into Los Angeles. There's no break. In fact, there's not more than a 20-minute break between Los Angeles and San Diego.
Yep. Well, my daughter used to live in San Diego, so I am a little bit familiar with sort of the sprawl there.
Well, the sprawl of Los Angeles has almost reached San Diego, and coming north, they've almost reached us. But, for example, this campaign that we just finished, we just finished it yesterday, the the fellow who came in second, mind you, had the backing of the ownership of Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
He must have put up 25 big billboards all over the city. Now, as you're stressing, and so rightly, every place is different. The second question that I wanted to ask you is, there are meetings now among Solidarity members in regions.
Yes.
And I wonder if those regional groups couldn't do some planning so as to give the team background, the team support for a particular person in a particularly well-chosen venue.
I think if we have a candidate who is, pretty much in agreement with the platform, the ideals of the Solidarity Party, especially our four core issues, our four core beliefs, contact the people in your state with the Solidarity Party. If you don't know who they are, contact the National Committee. Go right on our website, and we can put you in touch with people in your region. There are regional meetings that have been held. There are some very active states that have state meetings. If you're in an adjacent state, you might not be able to vote for a person running. I'm in New Jersey. I'm next to Pennsylvania. I couldn't vote for a Pennsylvania candidate, but I'd be willing to go over and knock on some doors. So that's definitely the personal contact is important. I agree with that. So the main thing is anyone
travel
who
to
is
help
this
save
contact
Pennsylvania?
will help.
Would you say you're willing to travel to help save Pennsylvania?
I have already. We had a person considering a run that started. They started a little bit late. They were in Pennsylvania last year, and they wanted to get. You have to get signatures to run as an independent candidate, which for Solidarity Party in many states doesn't recognize the party. So you run as an independent, and you make it clear in your message you're a member of the Solidarity Party. That's what I did. So I drove. It was only an hour, 1, 2, 3 hours. I'll easily drive, and went to assist them. Now, they entered late in the game, so getting signatures was a problem. They are strongly considering a run next time round. But, yes, I am willing to travel in order to assist people, and we have a number of other people in the party that are willing to do the same. It depends what region you're in. There's certain areas would be very difficult for me to get to, but certainly areas within 3 or 4 hours of me, I'd be more than willing to help. Now, other people listening to this might say, oh, gosh, I can't help. I can't drive 4 hours. Well, that's all right. Some people can and some people can't. There's always something you can do from where you are. One of the people who helped me a lot in my campaign was Patrick Harris, who is now also on the National Committee.
Yeah.
He actually was studying in Europe for most of my campaign. So he handled the social media. He helped us navigate Facebook and YouTube, which can be a maze for a candidate. He put up all sorts of information on the web, and he also did some research for me and found small local newspapers that I could very affordably take out large ads in. And this is someone that didn't have to fly over from Paris or something to help me. They could do it remotely. So that is also something that's very helpful.
I work for a publication that over the course of its history has taken out all kinds of ads. It's been one of the cheapest ways to advertise. How much, as you recall, how much did it cost to run an ad in one of these
I'm
small
trying
papers?
to remember. I don't want to, and my treasurer is currently out of the house. My husband did act as my campaign treasurer. You would know. I am thinking some pretty substantial coverage because when I ran for state, I had a much wider area to cover. I'm thinking about $800 for these ads, which is not much at all. The other thing I strongly encourage people who are running to do, myself, I don't watch regular TV anymore. I use YouTube. I have an Amazon box, and I use YouTube. And I'm pushing 60. All my children were young adults. It's mostly YouTube also. YouTube is what people watch and listen to. YouTube ads are very affordable. So a candidate running has that available. They can record a video on their iPhone or iPad It doesn't have to be professionally shot. In fact, a lot of people appreciate a more natural approach. And you can run that. It can be quite affordable. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're going to run advertising, it's going to cost money. Both YouTube and Facebook, over a period of time, did cost us some money. But each individual ad can be very affordable. And you do get, there are different ways to get contributions to your campaign, which can help quite a bit with that. Now, again, if you're running just for your town council, it's not those ads that are going to get you the votes. It's knocking on doors and talking to people that will get you the vote.
Yes. I think I'm in California, and I think our all things considered most successful candidate was Brian Carroll, running for Congress.
Amazing person, yes.
Yes, in Visalia, which is in the Central Valley, and we're having our California convention this week in Visalia, which makes sense because that's where the best results were. And that's sort of what I was thinking. If we have a regional or a state meeting of the Solidarity Party, I'm sure this is already done, but it would make such good sense to have one of the main items on the agenda for such a meeting, having a candidate and working with that candidate to provide the teamwork that you were saying was so important.
Yes. And I think Brian is a tremendous resource because he's done it. Desmond, there's a lot of people in the party that are great resources, and, you know, we are willing to do what we can to at least give information to people, if nothing else, to share our own experience. The requirements in different states are different. They're different for different offices. Just to get on the ballot access is a big thing. But don't feel overwhelmed by that. Talk to people who have done it. And you don't have to beat a whole new path. There's people that have walked before you, that can assist you. And Brian is incredible. Brian has the ability, and this is such a Solidarity Party thing, to, bring people together with different views and with truth spoken in kindness. He gets people to listen, to share. He listens to them. And that's the best kind of politics. That's the way you make connections with people. So I think very, very highly of Brian.
Do you think people suppose that he's Amish?
Because of the beard? I don't know, because he's active on Facebook. So
Matthew,
there's a little bit of technology there.
Here?
So, Monica, I really appreciate the skill and experience that you've brought to the Solidarity Party and everything you've done to serve, both as being one of our candidates and helping to build New Jersey and now on the national committee. In the little packets that you're putting together to help people get jump-started in their states, one of the things that's intimidating to people is knowing whether or not to incorporate and how to get the banking set up. Is that something that's covered in the packets?
Not as yet. What we have in the packet, I have done the one for New Jersey. I would call it a quick start guide, because what we do is we provide links to the information on the state website, because it can change. When I ran for town council in the mid-2000s, the campaign finance rules were slightly different than they are now. So the best information people have is the best information I can give them in the packet is to where to find the information online that what their state requires. And it's going to vary from state to state. In New Jersey, a treasurer is required to take a course before they can be a treasurer for a campaign. Now, it's just an online course for a few hours, but people need to know that. That information is in there, as well as a link of where to go to find the information on the course and what they need to do. There is a little bit of homework each candidate has to do, but all the information is pretty readily available. I found in New Jersey the Department of Elections was very helpful. You can call them on the phone, and they would give you assistance for what you needed to do. Most of the information for your state, you go to your State Department of Elections, and there's a lot of information for candidates on there. If you have difficulty navigating it, contact one of us and we will help you.
That is absolutely a pro tip. I found that trying to work as a third party, sometimes there's a little bit of pushback. But if I didn't announce that it was a third party, if I just called in with questions about forming a local committee or about, a candidate running for office, most state departments have been very helpful.
Well, I think what I found in New Jersey, and it surprised me, I found them very helpful. I think it's going to be different depending what office you're running not running from. Boy, that was a Freudian slip there. You're running for, and
good slip.
Yeah, don't run from it, run for it. But I just found New Jersey. I found the people in Trenton to be very helpful. That was my own experience. Now, people that ran in California, they may have a different story. But as I said, we're here to help. As far as setting up the financial side, I think one of the most important team members to get is a treasurer who is willing to look at the regulations on the state at the state level to see what is required. We needed to open a bank account. We needed something to show it wasn't a personal account. So my husband wrote some very simple bylaws, and I included an example of them in my little packet for New Jersey. Half a page on a paper stating who the officers were and that this was a campaign. We did not incorporate. We just gave them the letter, and that was sufficient for the bank to open an account for a candidate. That was in New Jersey. It's going to vary from state to state, so you have to check your state regulations. It really was easier than I expected it to be.
And I guess my other question, Monica, would be, if you're running and you're door knocking and you're putting yourself out there, and you start to get a little discouraged, is that something that you found people in the Solidarity Party were also helpful with?
Oh, Matthew, if I could hug you through the phone, I would. Matthew, you're one of the biggest helpers.
Over carefully.
Yes, it can get discouraging. Politics is difficult, and I think when you are doing something that is good, when you have ideals like Solidarity Party ideals, you do get hit with some opposition. And if you're pro-life for the whole life, you get some opposition from both sides. As I said, I also got support from both sides. But you can get discouraged. You have to expect that. You have to expect that there's going to be some stormy weather, and you have to be able to take it in stride. I think you need to develop a thick skin in politics. Sometimes people you know well, if they disagree with you politically, they may come out against you. You have to be able to say, okay, this is just politics, this is the issue, and shake it off when the campaign's over. But if you're facing discouragement, having people to support you and hold you up, like Aaron and Joshua holding Moses' arms up at the Red Sea, that's kind of what solidarity is all about, really. And Matthew, you were one of the people. I had a number of people. Skylar, I had a number of people that were helping me and giving me support when I got discouraged. They could say, hey, we're with you. Keep on going. Matthew, you just gave me a lot of encouragement by the phone. That's another way someone can help. If you think you don't have not a lot of time to put into it, but you can simply give moral support to your candidate and say, hey, we're counting on you. You can do this. That makes a tremendous difference at those times when you get discouraged, and they will happen. They will happen.
Well, my view of Matthew has just gone up immensely in the last 5 minutes.
I think the thing that you just pointed out, Monica.
I'd always seen him as more of a problem, but now I recognize that doesn't have to be. That's great.
Matthew was part of the time I was running. I believe when I started, you were chair of the Solidarity Party, and even after that passed on, you still gave me encouragement on the phone. I called you. You called me. And at times when I was discouraged, he was saying, you're in the right place. We're glad you're here. And it was so tremendously helpful just to have that positive encouragement. And we are a positive party. We really are. We are for the dignity of the human being. So we are a pro-party, not an anti-party. And I think hearing that from people that were supporting me was very, very helpful. Matthew, Schuyler, Mitzi Helmer, Patrick Harris. I'm afraid to keep naming names because I'm going to leave someone out and then I'll have guilt. But, yeah, it was really good to have that support team with me.
Did Matthew ever try to borrow $20 from you?
Well, he's in Western Pennsylvania and I'm in New Jersey, so it was kind of hard. I suppose I could have PayPal'd it to him. But you know what? Honestly, after some of those phone calls, if he asked me, I would have said, yeah, here you go. Here's a gift card to Amazon. Go ahead.
So you got to be on guard for everything. All right. Let me ask you this question, and I think in a way you've been edging toward it. How can candidates learn what they have to learn about local issues, get themselves personally set to deal with time questions, family questions, growing thick skin and the like, and keep in mind the larger vision of the Solidarity Party? I suspect that over the couple of years that I've been connected with the party, there's been a lot of disagreement about questions having to do with the larger vision of the party, and a lot of calls to get involved with local issues and local questions. And how can you have the local in mind and then at the same time the broad horizon of the party?
Boy, there's a lot in that question. First, I'm going to say if you are considering a run for local office, just as a practical point of view, go to the meetings. As I said, my town has meetings either once or twice a month, depending on the time of year. Go sit at the meetings, listen to it, find out what the town is dealing with. Now, your town may not be dealing with big questions of, you may run into some union issues, some worker issues, which certainly are something that our party platform deals with. Huge issues, huge pro-life issues you may not face in your town. But if you have those views in your heart, sounds almost corny, but if you are truly pro-life for the whole life, you are going to bring that into all those little tiny things that you deal with in a town. Everything from, trying to balance the taxes in the town, being just to the people that live in the town that have to pay the taxes, and balancing that with a just wage for the people who work in the town. All those things are things that we deal with as Solidarity Party members. We have a basic view of the dignity of every human person at every condition, every job, every socioeconomic group, every stage of development. And we can carry that with us as opposed to kind of this utilitarian view that happens so often in politics. So, yeah, even in a local little tiny town issues, you bring the solidarity view into it, but go to the meetings, listen to what people are talking about, and you may realize this is something you can really do. Now, you asked a couple of other questions in there, and they've already leaked out of my brain. If you want to hone in on anything I said and I can clarify or expand on it.
Well, that's all right in terms of questions going by the board, because what you said raises, I think, an extraordinarily important question. Someone listening to us might say, well, what Monica wants, she wants really, really decent, nice, honorable, friendly, pleasant, outgoing people to run. And I'm none of the above.
Then please don't run.
What if somebody says, what I like is a good argument, and I want to argue for the right positions, and the Solidarity Party has the right positions, And I'm going to do the best I can to suffer fools gladly, but I can only do that for about 5 minutes. And Monica's looking for people like Brian Carroll, who are all around decent, engaging, well-disguised Amish types. And how could anybody living in Los Angeles or environs of Los Angeles do that? Just for the heck of it, Monica, I want to mention this. The guy who won the race was the incumbent, a guy named Jim Butts. And his background is he started off on the Inglewood Police Force, went on to become the chief of police in Santa Monica, came to become the mayor of Inglewood, and his biggest backers, how many phone calls did we get from them? His biggest backers included Shaquille O'Neal and Snoop Doggy Dogg. Now, since you say you're pushing 60, you might not be familiar with either.
Oh, I know who they are, yes.
As someone who's not pushing but is wallowing in being 72, it's just a whole different climate here. The race was really about whether this group of celebrities and entertainers was going to own Inglewood or this other group of celebrities and entertainers was going to own Inglewood. And our man Joseph Soto has a small business, lived here since the 70s, raising a family here, is good as gold. He's got the kind of heart that you were talking about. But, he's going to have to win on sheer heart because he's got no money, no glitz, and he's never had time to polish his patina, so he doesn't have anything that would be in the neighborhood of charisma. All right.
Well, you are in the L.A. area, so there may be a different view there. I think having a lot of celebrities did not help Hillary Clinton in the last presidential run. It doesn't necessarily sway voters. In my area, I think people roll their eyes at celebrity endorsements. So it depends where you are. But also, don't misunderstand me.
They did here.
Don't misunderstand me. This is very important. First of all, I think I'm known when I have gone to the town council meetings and taken part on all that. I was kind of a rabble-rouser and a little ornery.
Good.
But everybody, the body has many parts. The body cannot be all eye. It cannot be all foot. All those different personalities, we're all there for a reason. We have our personality. We have our callings. We have our strengths. We have our weaknesses. And I certainly don't advocate people being vicious. That is not acceptable. But some people are very blunt and outspoken and straightforward, and some people are very gentle, and all are needed. So if everybody was perfect, everybody who wanted to run for office was perfect, that would be very surreal. But if everybody was perfect, you wouldn't need any kind of a government. We'd just all get along. We all have our weaknesses, and sometimes I think people confuse their strengths and weaknesses. Somebody who is very blunt and very outspoken might think that that's a drawback for them, and maybe that's just what's needed at this time at a particular place. You are the way you are for a reason. See where you're called. And I think this is what I forgot to say the last question. You have to keep all this in perspective. You may win, you may lose. You're running, you don't know the outcome, you don't know the end of the story. You just know what you have to do today. And what you need to do right now is the next right thing. And that's all you can do every day. You'll make it or you won't. Don't be fake. Be who you are. Hold to your ideals, and you'll see what doors open.
Oh, that's a good message. It's often said that the saints are enormously different, one from the other.
Okay, I will have to tell you something. My daughter named her youngest son Augustin Jerome because St. Augustine and St. Jerome were at odds. They didn't get along. They both had different kinds of prickly personalities, and I guess she thought it was would be kind of fun to have both names for one child. But they both.
I can give you a particular there. With regard to Jerome, during the Renaissance, a couple of cardinals were looking at a picture of Jerome with the lion and the thorn in his paw. And this was recounted by some famous person, and the one cardinal said to the other, "Good thing he pulled that thorn, because he wouldn't have had a hope of being canonized otherwise." Now, that could be apocryphal, but I read with my own two bleary eyes a letter from Jerome in which at the close of the letter he says, "Dear friend, you'll know that this letter is truly from me because of the tone."
Yes.
And all through the letter, he'd been trashing someone.
Yeah, it really is. We all, we aren't perfect, and we have to just, God writes straight with crooked lines.
Yeah.
God writes with crooked lines. Pray for humility.
Because I'm on a tear here, let me give you one more thing.
Sure.
I guess my favorite saint, being a philosopher, is St. Thomas Aquinas, and this is true. I'm not making this up. Aquinas cites Jerome in Aquinas' writings 2,700 times. However, a great many times in citing Jerome, he qualifies what Jerome says and softens it a little bit.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
My understanding is Jerome was a little prickly, and I think we also need to be patient with each other in this era of polarization and just this horrible political atmosphere. We have to be patient with each other. We have to look for the best in each other. Every now and then people use a tone maybe they shouldn't use. We have to be forgiving, and we have to just look for the best and keep in mind the goal. Keep in mind the goal, the pro-life for the whole life goal that's going on here, because it's bigger than anyone having a bad day and, mouthing off. It's much bigger than that. We got to keep that in focus.
Well, now, I hear you on that, too, and that's why I don't even ask Michael for the Matthew. Sorry, I don't even ask him. Don't even ask Matthew anymore for the $20 back. I just pretty much. I figured he used it well.
Yeah.
Matthew, you better get back into this conversation, otherwise it's going to go downhill fast.
Monica, I just wanted to point out that part of what made you such an awesome candidate and part of what makes you such a valuable person to have on the NC is you take those core standards to heart of the sanctity of human life, the necessity of social justice, our responsibility for the environment, and the possibility of a more peaceful world. And I really think that regardless of what office you're running for, people who are sincere when they make those affirmations are really self-selecting to the kind of people we need to have in office. I don't think that you're going to have a liar or a crook or someone who's going to have sex abuse scandals or is going to be abusing their employees or stealing from the state if they're honestly making those affirmations.
Yes, I agree.
Another thing that I would love to hear you comment on is we've talked a lot about the potential of higher offices and local municipal offices, but I think there's an absolutely beautiful opportunity for Solidarity Party values being shown in local school board races, where you're dealing with teachers' unions and the education of children and taxation and the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
Has anyone in the party been talking about, or are there any thoughts developed on getting people to run for school board?
Yes, that has come up. We do have a fair number of, I would say, I don't want to commit anyone, but there's certainly a number of people who have expressed interest in running for different offices at different levels. And I know school board has been floated out there. So, yes, there are people who are considering it, and I encourage other people to consider it too. Now, the situations in different areas and the needs in different areas and the matters of justice in different areas are going to be different. One thing I love about our platform is other than, there are certain non-negotiable issues. Certainly abortion, euthanasia, things like that are non-negotiable. But where we give a lot of leeway on our platform is how you enact certain principles. And issues of taxation, issues of various interaction with unions and with taxpayers and all that stuff, there's a lot of room. There's different times and ways to apply the principles of the party in there. So you're going to get people with some different views, and they're all within the boundaries of our platform and of our party. In New Jersey, I had done one of my YouTube videos was on taxes. Now, in some areas, this led some people in the party to think I was against taxes, which would be incorrect. In New Jersey, the property taxes are so burdensome that people can lose their homes. Poor people are charged exorbitant rents because the landlords have to pay the taxes. It's a very big problem here, the way our tax system is set up. So in my area, I address the injustice of our particular structure of taxes. In another area, that might not be an issue at all. In fact, you might make it quite the opposite case. So someone who is on a school board or running in a local office, there's a lot of positions they can hold, but at their core is they're keeping in mind with everyone involved the dignity of every person involved and what is the most just solution for this particular problem. And that's not something that is always considered on the political field.
I love that so much, Monica. In my attempts to take your advice and to be someone who attends local council meetings and local school board meetings, it seems like to some local people they take that as the place to just show up and scream when they have a problem rather than be part of the solution.
Yes.
But what I've witnessed is that the members of those councils or boards that do still respect that person's inherent dignity, a calm word can turn away much wrath.
Yes, indeed.
And it's just been instructive to me to both see when that happens and when that doesn't happen and how it can take the whole meeting off the rails if someone doesn't have that calm word to acknowledge the person's grievance and take it seriously.
I will tell you a story in my own town last winter, the winter before maybe, and again, it's a small town, and there was a resident very upset because the roads weren't plowed and some public sidewalks weren't shoveled, and it messed up her walk, and she was very, very upset. And the mayor, who I disagree with on many things, but this really stood out to me, he said, if that area is not cleared, our next snowstorm, you phone me, I will come over and shovel it. And all of a sudden, it just stopped. Her anger just stopped. Did she ever call him? I don't know if she ever needed to, but he would have done it. And you can't do that in a big city, but, doing that in a small town, that was such an incredible thing to do, and it just completely changed the tone of the meeting. He wasn't angry. He was sincere. He said, if our guys can't get out there in time because of whatever big problems with weather, I will come out and help you. And that was just awesome. So, yeah.
And he's not, and your mayor's not in our party, but what a beautiful display of solidarity and caring for someone in his neighborhood. And that's why I think this party really does have the chance to become a major voice in this nation we have today, is because with those four core principles and with people like you and the other candidates we have running, we can not just show that solidarity ourselves, but connect with the solidarity even with the people in other parties and really build that compromise, that common sense to find common ground for the common good, as I heard you highlight earlier. And that just fills me with hope for what we can accomplish.
Yeah, and I think we can do that without compromising the certain things that are not compromisable. So we can take a stand for the truth, and on issues of great import, again, bring something like euthanasia, and again, abortion, the big issues. We don't have to compromise, but we can find a common ground somewhere, some area we agree on that we can make progress for the common good. That's always possible. And there's a lot of other areas we can sort of work across the aisles, we can say, for the common good. And that is so healing. That can be so incredibly healing to a divided society. It sure is different. And that difference alone can help you in running a campaign, because people are just craving that right now.
I think so much of this last election.
I certainly find the commitment to reconciliation, constructive reconciliation that both you, Monica, and Matthew have, I find that just wonderful. But at the same time, a couple of things. One thing builds on that constructive reconciliation, and so I'll start with that. You'd mentioned earlier Desmond Silvera. One of the things that Desmond did when he was running for governor is reach out to every third party that would have a civil conversation. And we had a debate here in Los Angeles, and this is for gubernatorial candidates, to which, not surprisingly, only third-party candidates came, because people who have money are not going to bother with little debates because they might get tripped up. But Desmond went out of his way to try to make connections with those folks. And another thing he does is he goes to meetings, and there's a big one on Saturday, that explore alternative forms of voting, and do so in a significant measure because they want to figure out ways that at least people in third parties can get some sort of representation. That said, it's a mixed up world. There are green shoots, but there are also big swamps. Getting back here to Inglewood, Inglewood's whole educational system, this is 3 high schools and a great many elementary schools, is in receivership to the state of California. And the state of California, in its public evaluation of the Inglewood school system, said it appears that no one in Inglewood has the background or the, what was the exact word? I can't remember. The personal skills necessary to be the director of the Board of Education in Inglewood. So Inglewood is now run top to bottom in the school system by the state of California. And that's not good. Now, when it comes to going to meetings, the Los Angeles City Council meetings are regularly televised, and all the committee meetings are regularly televised. And when you watch the shows of these meetings, you have some business being done, and then it's open to the groups that are there. And the same people over and over and over and over again go up to the microphone.
Yep.
And everybody who's saying who should come to the microphone next knows the people. Fred, it's your turn now. And Fred gets up and rants and raves about some hideous conspiracy, or the whole thing has been shanghaied by that group of people. Gosh, I wished I lived in a little town like you do, Monica, and that's something that connects with the larger vision of the Solidarity Party in various ways. And Norm Schweinart, I think, has done this in a very eloquent way, have talked about the need to decentralize wherever possible. And boy, I see the need for that. I think that's a fundamental question.
I would strongly agree with you. I'm sure we have people with different opinions on that in the party, but I would be in agreement with you on that.
Well, Matthew, we've got 2 minutes left, and Monica, we always end with a prayer. Matthew, anything you want to add before we do end with a prayer?
I would just say that for any of you who are listening that haven't done so yet, take the moment. Go to solidarity-party.org, look over the platform, ask yourself, what do you really believe? And is this party what's best to represent you? And if it is, reach out to someone like Monica. Think about putting your name in the hat for your town council or your local school board or more if you have the ambition. And let's see if we can't restore some solidarity. I think especially after this last election where everyone voted for the person they were less afraid of, we could really use some solidarity in the country right now. There'll be a lot of municipal elections coming up in 2019, and there's going to be a whole new batch of people running for Congress and a presidential race in 2020. Now's the time to start planning. Now's the time to start praying. Now's the time to start donating. You can do all of the above and talk to people wanting to help you through those processes, again, at solidarity-party.org. Thanks for having Monica on, Jim, and thanks for this great conversation, Monica.
Thank you, Matthew, for everything. Thank you
both. Let me end with a prayer, as we always do, and oftentimes it's something from the liturgy of the day. This is from a letter of St. Paul to the Philippians. My beloved, obedient as you have always been, not only when I am present, but all the more now when I am absent, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For God is the one who, for his good purpose, works in you both to desire and to work. Do everything without grumbling or questioning, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine like lights in the world as you hold on to the word of life, so that my boast for the day of Christ may be that I did not run in vain or labor in vain. But even if I am poured out as a libation upon the sacrificial service of your faith, I rejoice and share my joy with all of you. In the same way, you also should rejoice and share your joy with me. The word of the Lord. Amen. Thanks to all, one and all, and we will be back next week. God bless. Come, Lord Jesus.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.